Hello. I'd like to thank all of you
The noise, I gotta get through the
for
whole.
coming to the September 17th Town Board meeting. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
John Basley, First Ward.
Bill Carlos, Second Ward.
Joe Conti, Third Ward.
Michael Sapone, Fourth Ward.
Stefan Krakauer, Fifth Ward.
Ann Shershen, 6th Ward.
Todd Tancredi, Supervisor.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, Attorney for the town.
All right. We've got a number of special guests here tonight, as everyone can see. So I'd like, with the board's permission, to deviate from our regular order of meeting here. And we've got some of our all-star teams here that did very well this year, from New York State champions to district champions to runner-up, third place. So I think it's always important when we have young people that excel in anything, and sports included, that, we do our part by recognizing their accomplishments. It took dedication and teamwork and commitment to do what they did and to accomplish what they've accomplished. So what I want the young athletes to know is, even when you're outside the town of Poughkeepsie, we're there supporting you. We're with you in thought, and we're proud of what you were able to do this year. And we have a short video, 3 minutes, that's been given to us, which will give you a little flavor for some of the events and some of how things went this year. So I'm going to play the video, and then we'll start having the teams come up. We're going to go by age group, by team, and I'll ask the young players to come up this side. We have a recognition certificate for each one of you, and then once you get your certificate, kind of stand over here, and that way if anybody wants to take a picture of the team, once we've congratulated them, you can do it then, okay? Let's see if I can get this to work.
North Colony facing Poughkeepsie for the New York State Cal Ripken All-Star title for 10-year-olds. Colony threatening in the bottom of the second, no score, and Ryan Leibold keeps it that way with this diving catch. Folks, there were more web gems in this game than all of K. Julius. No score going into the third. Trey Mariano on the mound for Colony, and he walks Ben Tulo. Then walks Jackson Pellish. So with 2 on, Nick Bergeron goes the opposite way. 1 run scores, it's 1-0 Poughkeepsie, and Bergeron is in with a double. Damian Chirilla follows that with a shot deep in the hole. Not much Aiden O'Keefe can do with it. Everybody is safe, and a run is in. It's 2-0 Poughkeepsie. Parker Nevins hits that same hole and beats out the throw, allowing another run to score. It was 3-0 Poughkeepsie after 2.5. And in the bottom of the third, more web gems. Ben Tulo grabs the hot shot to second.
Right, baseball.
O'Keefe tees off and gets a hit to left. Ryan Bilka sends one down the right field line, just out of the reach of Brandon Barry. 1 run scores, it's 3-1. Then with runners in second and third, Joey Carpenter base hit in the Bermuda Triangle, 2-run score, and we're tied at 3 after 3. In the fourth, another web gem. Check out Bergeron. He lays it out, gets up, and fires to first. What a play. Next batter, check out Christian Martinez as he tracks and snags this one. In the fifth, it's Bergeron, again with a diving stab. And then in the sixth, it's Bergeron again. And in the same inning, it's Martinez again. Folks, these kids weren't even walking 8 years ago, and now they're doing this? That's amazing. But in the 7th, Ryan Bilko draws a walk. Another base hit puts runners on the corners. And Troy Hunt shoots one up the middle. The runner at second is safe. Sam Case scores, and Colony wins the state title 4-3 in 7 innings.
As you can see, there were some exciting games and exciting times this summer. Councilman Conti claims he used to play like that. I never saw it, so I'm not sure I believe it. I've seen him try to play a few years back. It was a pretty sight. Is Tom Maring here? I saw our rec director, Tom Maring. I'd like to have you hand out certificates. And Jay Beasley is the chairman of our rec committee.
Oh, it should be.
All right, we're going to start with the 15-year-olds, those that are here tonight. So what I'll do is call off your name. If, as I said, you can come up. We have a recognition certificate for you. And then if the players could and the coaches could just stand over here if anybody wants to take a picture, that way they'll all be in one spot. So let's start with Brian Sittler, the manager of the 15-year-old team. Is Brian here? Congratulations. And I apologize if I have trouble with any of these names, which I know I will eventually. Rich Gannon, coach. Is Rich here? And Charles Smith, coach. And how about player Adrian Smith? No. All right. Brian Dazzy. And I forgot to mention, these players, this team was Eastern New York District runner-up. Connor Gannon? Okay. How about Connor McRory? Jason Sittler? Congratulations. Let's see. Nicholas Dykman? Richard Burke? Robert Marsh? Ryan Witherwax? Sammy Vivace? Sorry. I knew it happened sooner or later. Sean McDowell? Simon Corby? And Tucker Lee? So that, ladies and gentlemen, was the 15-year-old 2014 Eastern New York District runner-up. All right, now for 13-year-olds. Yeah, I got them.
You got it, Jay.
The 13-year-old team was also Eastern New York District runner-up. And first, the manager, Rich Aiello. Popular guy. Congratulations.
9, 10,
David
11.
Kohler, coach. Mike Leroy, coach. Congratulations. And to the players, Anthony Vos. Good job. Carmen Reichel. David Vos.
Go play.
Jake McCormick. Joshua Kohler. Justin Jorge. Marcelo Del Tresti. Robert Leroy. Tyler Aiello. Vincent Snyder. Zachary Bauer. And Zachary Safi. This, ladies and gentlemen, is your 13-year-old 2014 Eastern New York District runner-up. Congratulations.
That's people.
Next, we have the 12-year-olds. And the 12-year-olds are the New York Eastern District third place team. First, the manager, Jim Jolly. Coaches Tom Henry and Paul Lee. Benjamin Jolly, sorry. Brendan Carroll. Connor Lee. Dimitri Henry. Devin Hollenbeck. Ethan Green. Frank Servideo. Jalen Cobb. John Rodriguez. Marco Cetera. Nicholas Chesky. And Ryan Burns. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is your 2014 12-year-old Eastern New York third place team.
Boys, stay where you are.
Okay, now to the 11-year-olds. Manager Rich Whalen. Coach Joe Crichton and Larry Garrison. Alexander Crichton. Alexander Crichton. Oh, sorry. Antonio Ragnello. That's a tongue twister. No? Derek Dittenhofer. Dominic DeRocha. Jake Spiro. Frank Van Zelota. Justin Garrison. Luke Whalen. Nicholas Ristic. Riley Smith. Sean Lucas. And Thomas Gibson. And ladies and gentlemen, that is your 11-year-old 2014 Eastern New York District runner-up. All right, now the 10-year-olds. Now this is the team, I believe this is the team we saw on the video. The 10-year-olds were the Eastern New York District champions as well as the Eastern New York State runner-up team. Manager Tommy Thiola. Coach Alec Berrien and Adam Pellish. Player Alyssa Hughes. Benjamin Tulo. Brandon Berrien. Christian Martinez. Damian Cirilla. Hunter Parada. Congratulations. Good job. Jackson Pellish. Matthias Wolven. Congratulations. Nicholas Bergeron, the guy making all the plays in the video. Parker Nevins. Ryan Leibel. And Thomas Fiola. I want you guys come around and some people are trying to get your picture. Come on in and go sec 2 deep. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 10-year-old Eastern New York champions and the 10-year-old Eastern New York State runner-up. You know what it's like to be at the Grammys.
Okay. Good job, guys.
All right. And now the 9-year-olds. 9-year-old team were the Eastern New York District runner-up. Manager Rich Weatherwax. Coaches Brian Dazzy and Matthew Hoyt. Player Aiden Dubetsky. Anthony Hoyt. Bryce Dazzy. Dominic Marino. Gavin McLaughlin. Cole Dominic, Larson Hatanen, Owen Piano, Richard Decker Jr., Riley Witherwax.
Jim Nelson.
Shane Brett Marty, Xavier Zykoff. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your 2014 9-year-old Eastern New York District runner-up. All right, now the 8-year-olds. Now the 8-year-olds were the Eastern New York District champions as well as the Eastern New York State champions. Manager Pat Murray. Coaches Dan Collins and Dan Speranza. Adam Reinahan. Aiden Cox. I like that hat. Andrew Sperana. Brian Hoyt. Connor Durkin. Those state champion hats are nice too, boy. Congratulations. Daniel Collins. Dominic Abatello. Jake Rohan. Congratulations. Mike Schiavone. Congratulations. Nicholas Patoda.
Get them organized.
Ryan Bealey. Surtai Pander. Why don't you guys do the same thing? We got to definitely get some pictures of the state champs. This, ladies and gentlemen, is your 2014 8-year-old Eastern New York District champions and Eastern New York State champions. That's all right. I want to thank everyone for coming in. A special thank you on behalf of the town board, myself, to all the coaches and managers, and a special thanks out to Vinny. Vinny goes above and beyond. Thanks, guys.
Five-minute recess.
5-minute recess.
Congratulations, that's wonderful.
Take 5-minute break.
5-minute break.
Don, you can feel free to move up. There's a lot of seats up front now.
Excuse me.
I saw John.
All right, now that the excitement's over, we'll get down to business. We have one public hearing on our agenda tonight, so I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number one, or the only one, Country Club Sewer District.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? Seeing no one, I make a motion to close public hearing number one.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We did just close the public hearing, so Jay, you.
Ready for one? When you're
Ready?
ready.
Yep.
It's on you, Jay.
Whereas the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie has received a map plan report in regard to decommissioning of the Country Club Estates Sewer District plant and connection of the district to the Arlington Sewage Treatment Plant, as well as documentation regarding the financing of this project. And whereas the Town Board has reviewed said map plan report and has considered a short form environmental assessment form prepared in regard to the proposed project. And whereas the Town Board previously determined that the proposed action is an unlisted action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and notified the potential involved agencies of its intent to assume lead agency status to coordinate the environmental review of the project. Whereas the Town Board did not receive any objections from the identified involved agencies to the Board assuming lead agency status, and whereas in its role as lead agency, the Town Board has compared the proposed action against the criteria for determination of signification in 6 NYCRR 617.7, has determined there will be no potential significant adverse environmental impacts associated with this proposed action. Now therefore be resolved, the Town Planning Board issues a negative declaration, a copy of which is attached hereto and made part hereof for proposed Country Club Sewer District decommissioning in connection to the Arlington Sewer Treatment System. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Let's, all right, let's just do the second one, because that's related to Country Club as well, and then we'll take questions on agenda items.
Okay, so
But we'll do 3, actually, also, because that's Country Club, and then we'll,
Okay. Number 2.
Yep.
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, has duly caused to be prepared a map, plan, and report, including an estimate of cost pursuant to Section 202B of the Town Law relating to the proposed increase and improvement of the facilities of the Country Club Estates Sewer District in the Town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, consisting of the decommissioning of the existing sewage treatment facility, pump station, and forced main replacement, and installation and connection to the Arlington sewage treatment plant in the Town of Poughkeepsie, including original furnishings, equipment, machinery, apparatus, protuberances, and incidental improvements and expenses in connection therewith at a maximum estimated cost of $1,450,000. And whereas a meeting of the Town Board duly called and held on August 6, 2014, an order was duly adopted by it and entered into the minutes specifying that said Town Board would meet to consider an increase and improvement of the facilities of the Country Club Estates Sewer District in said town at a maximum estimated cost of $1,450,000, and to hear all persons interested in the subject thereof concerning the same at Town Hall in Poughkeepsie, New York, in the said town on August 20th, 2014, at 7 p.m. prevailing time. Whereas said order, duly certified by the town clerk, was duly published and posted as required by law, and whereas a public hearing was duly held at the time and place set forth in said notice, at which all persons desiring to be heard were duly heard, which public hearing was thereat adjourned on the record to September 17th, 2014 at 7 p.m., at which all persons desiring to be heard were duly heard, and whereas the project having been determined to be an unlisted action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and the Town Board having determined that it will not result in a significant adverse environmental impact, a negative declaration has been adopted by the Town Board. Now therefore be it ordered by the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, as follows. Section 1. Upon the evidence given at the foresaid public hearing, it is hereby found and determined that it is in the public interest to make the increase and improvement of the facilities of the Country Club Estates Sewer District in the Town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, consisting of decommissioning of the existing sewage treatment plant, pump station, forced main replacement, and installation and connection to the Arlington sewer treatment plant in the Town of Poughkeepsie, including original furnishings, equipment, machinery, apparatus, protuberances, and incidental improvements and expenses in connection therewith, at a maximum estimated cost of $1,450,000. Section 2, this order shall take effect immediately. So moved.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Vote on this.
Roll call.
We have to vote on this roll call.
Okay.
Jay
Roll call.
Baisley?
Aye.
William Carlos?
Aye.
Joe Conti?
Aye.
Mike Safone?
Aye.
Stefan Krakauer?
Aye.
Ann Sheershin?
Aye.
And Todd Tancredi?
Aye. All right, motion passes 7-0. And number 3, bonding Country Club Sewer District.
A regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, held at the Town Hall in the Town of Poughkeepsie, New York, and said town on the 17th day of September 2014 at 7 o'clock p.m. prevailing time. The meeting was called to order by Todd Tancredi, Supervisor, and upon roll being called, the following all council members present, none absent. The following resolution was offered by Councilman Joe Conti, who moved its adoption, seconded by Councilman Stefan
Put it in,
Krakauer.
happens.
Okay, to wit. And do I need to read all the?
You most certainly do,
Okay,
Mr.
no
Conti.
problem. Bond resolution dated September 17th, 2014, a resolution authorizing the issuance of up to $1,450,000 in bonds of the Town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, to pay the cost of the increase and improvement of the facilities of the Country Club Estates Sewer District in the Town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, whereas The capital project hereinafter described has been determined to be an unlisted action pursuant to the regulations of New York State Department of Environmental Conservation promulgated pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the implementation of which, as proposed, it has been determined will not result in significant environmental impact. And whereas pursuant to the provisions heretofore duly had and taken in accordance with the provisions of Section 202B of the Town Law, and more particularly, an order of event date herewith, said Town Board had determined it to be in the public interest to improve the facilities at the Country Club Estate Sewer District in the town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $1,450,000. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, as follows. Section 1, for the specific object of purpose of paying the cost of the increase and improvement to the Country Club Estate Sewer District in the town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, consisting of the decommissioning of the existing sewage treatment facility, pump station, and force main replacement and installation, and connection to the Arlington sewage treatment plant in the town of Poughkeepsie, including original furnishings, equipment, machinery, apparatus, appurtenances, and incidental improvements and expenses in connection therewith, at a maximum estimated cost of $1,450,000. There are hereby authorized to be issued up to $1,450,000 in bonds of said town pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law. Section 2, it is hereby determined that the maximum estimated cost of the aforesaid specific object or purpose is $1,450,000, and that the plan for the financing there is by issuance of the $1,450,000 serial bonds of said town authorized to be issued pursuant to this bond resolution. Section 3, it's hereby determined that the period of probable usefulness of this aforesaid specific object or purpose is 40 years pursuant to subdivision 4 of the paragraph A of Section 11 of the local finance law. It is hereby further determined that the maximum maturity of the serial bonds herein authorized will exceed 5 years. Section 4, the faith and credit of said town of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, New York, are hereby irrevocably pledged for the repayment of the principal of and the interest on such bonds as the same respectively become due and payable. An annual appropriation shall be made in each year sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on such bonds becoming due and payable in such year, to the extent not paid from monies raised from said Country Club Estate Sewer District, as applicable in the manner provided by law. There should be annually be levied on all the taxable real property of said town a tax sufficient to pay the principal of and the interest on such bonds as the same become due and payable. Section 5. Subject to the provisions of the local finance law, the power to authorize the issuance of and to sell bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance and sale of the serial bonds herein authorized, including renewals of such notes, is hereby delegated to the supervisor, the chief fiscal officer. Such notes shall be of terms, form, and contents, and shall be sold in such manner as may be prescribed by said supervisor, consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. Section 6, the powers and duties of advertising such bonds for sale, conducting the sale, and awarding the bonds are hereby delegated to the supervisor, who shall advertise such bonds for sale, conduct the sale, and award the bonds in such manner as he shall deem best for the interests of the town, and including but not limited to the power to sell said bonds to the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, provided, however, that in the exercise of these delegated powers, the supervisor shall comply fully with the provisions of the local finance law and any order or rule of the state controller applicable to the state of municipal bonds. The receipt of the supervisor shall be in full acquittance to the purchaser of such bonds, who shall not be obliged to see the application of the purchased money. Section 7, all other matters except as provided herein relating to the serial bonds herein authorized, including the date, denominations, maturities, and interest payment dates, within the limitations prescribed herein and in the manner of execution of the same, including the consolidation with the other issues, and also the ability to issue serial bonds with the substantially level or declining annual debt service, shall be determined by the supervisor, the chief fiscal officer of such town. Such bonds shall contain substantially the recital of validity clause provided for in Section 52 for the local finance law, and shall otherwise be in such form and contain such recitals in addition to those required by Section 51 of the local finance law, as the supervisor shall determine consistent with the provisions of local finance law. Section 8. The supervisor is hereby further authorized at the sole discretion to execute a project finance and/or loan agreement with any other agreements with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and/or the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, including amendments thereto and including any instruments or amendments thereto in the effectuation thereof in order to effect the financing or refinancing of the specific object or purpose described in Section 1 hereof or a portion hereof by a bond and/or note issue of said town in the event of the sale of the same to New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. Section 9, the power to issue and sell notes to the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation pursuant to Section 169 of the local finance law is hereby delegated to the supervisor. Such notes shall be of such terms, form, and contents, as may be prescribed by the said supervisor, consistent with the provision of the local finance law. Section 8, the validity of such bonds and bond anticipation notes may be contested only if, 1, such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose for which said town is not authorized to expend money, or 2, the provisions of law which should be complied with at the date of publication of this resolution are not substantially complied with. And an action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of such publication, or 3, such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution. Section 9. This resolution shall constitute a statement of official intent for purposes of Treasury Regulation, Section 1.150-2. Other than as specified in this resolution, no monies are or reasonably expected to be reserved, allocated on a long-term basis, or otherwise set aside with respect to the permanent funding of the objects or purpose description herewith. Section 10, this resolution, which takes effect immediately, shall be published in the summary form in the official newspaper, together with a notice of town clerk in substantially the form provided in Section 81 of local finance law. And the question of the adaptation of the foregoing resolution was duly put to a vote on roll call, which results as follows. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Mr.
Jim, I had to write that.
Proceed. For the beginning, Felicia, did you call the roll? The way that this thing is structured, it's set up that for the roll to be called.
It
and
said
then
the
we-
meeting was called to order by Todd Tancredi, and upon roll being called, the following were present, so.
We did the roll call
That
at
just
the
take
beginning of the
that-
meeting.
We said all present.
Yeah.
Thank you, okay.
Because you're not
And
gonna have me
the
read this.
section numbers are a little off. Does that matter?
I was going to also suggest that the last 3 sections be denominated as 10, 11, and 12, which I've made on this copy, and it'll be on the file copy.
Okay. Alicia?
Jay Baisley,
Aye.
William Carlos,
Aye.
Joe Conti,
Aye.
Mike Safone.
Aye.
Stefan Krakauer.
Aye.
Ann Sheershin.
Aye.
Todd Tancredi.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes 7-0. And that brings us to the end of our public hearing related agenda items. I'm going to go through the agenda and we'll take questions on agenda items only. Number 4 is appointment of Jennifer Lyden, full-time police assistant. 5 is the appointment of Christina Johoski, part-time police assistant. 6 is the appointment of Sarah Rako, part-time police assistant. 7 is to ratify the McCoster lease, ratify and authorize McCoster lease publication. 8 is to set a public hearing date for the adoption of a tree preservation law. 9 is to set the public hearing date for town code amendment to our noise ordinance law. 10 is to authorize the supervisor to sign repayment agreement, U.S. Department of Housing. 11 is to authorize bid advertisement cleaning and televising of some sewer lines. 12 is to set a public hearing date for Fairview Commons Overlay District. 13 is to authorize supervisor to sign Fairview Commons stormwater documents. 14 is a resolution recognizing October 19th through 25, 2014 as Freedom from Workplace Bullies Week. 15 is set a public hearing for the special district assessment roll. 16 is to authorize a few tax settlements. 17 is the appointment of our attorneys for 2014 for tax certs. 18 is to set a public hearing date for property maintenance at 14 Wendy Drive. 19 is property maintenance at 28 Millbank. 20 is property maintenance at 6 Magnolia. 21 is the appointment of David E. Wise as Bureau of Fire Prevention, Donald E., sorry. 22 is to authorize road names at Dutchess Community College. 23 is to approve a referral from Dahlia Route 9G project to the planning board. 24 is notification of a liquor license for Sushi Village. And then we have 3 special consents. 1 is to accept certificate of attendance for a number of our planning board members, John Weissman, Joe Lepore, Carl Whitehead, and Rich Davison, SC2 is to accept the resignation of Jeanette Gonzalez as a school crossing guard, and SC3 is to retain Hudson Valley Appraisal Services for a tax cert proceeding. So I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for public comment or questions on agenda items.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak to an agenda item? Rob?
Thank you, Supervisor, council people. Several weeks ago, I'm here to speak, by the way, I should say, about agenda item 91707, the McAllister lease. Several weeks ago, I came here and I had questioned under what authority the town had could proceed with this lease, because I could find nothing in the town code. And Supervisor, you were kind enough to say that you would get back to me within the next day, and I think it was the next day that you got back to me. What you gave me, which I have printed up, and if I may afterwards, I'll give this to the clerk, is the Chapter 21 leases, 21.1, 21.2. 21.2 is an interesting part of this. It's the authorization to negotiate lease terms, where it says that the town board will determine on a case-by-case basis what is the most appropriate term to be utilized in its negotiations as a leasing involving leases for recreational purposes, and said term may exceed the term of the town board. It only talks about recreational purposes, not about being allowed to do a lease of any town property to a private corporation for other than recreational uses. So in terms of what you were kind enough to give to me, I still do not see where the town has the authorization to lease town property to a private corporation, specifically in this instance, McAllister. I would object to that lease being signed. And if I may, I'll give this to the clerk.
That's fine. And just to respond to your statement, Rob, our legal staff reviewed this. Mr. Nelson did review your concerns. He does not agree with your assessment and your evaluation, so we are proceeding with this lease. We do feel it's within the town rights legally to proceed with this lease, as we have for the past, 8 or so years, and but I do thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Armstrong?
Looking at number 2, I guess the $1,450,000, there's no consideration that in fact we're paying double the cost by the extra roughly $700,000. That's just a water usage thing that's put on us, even though we're not a new customer. My other question on number 3 is the bonding. It was for 5 years, did you say the bonding was on this?
No.
Where'd the 5 years come? Somebody said 5 years. What the heck was that?
No, the bonding should be a lot longer than 5 years.
I would have thought so.
Yeah.
40 years is the lifespan, but the bonding isn't for that long.
Yeah, it's not 5 years. I would think it's going to be 20 or 30 years at least.
Do we know what the total cost of the bond would be at the end of the bond period?
Well, it's going to be $1,450,000.
That's with interest and everything else involved, or that's not to pay the bond off, is it?
Yes,
14,
$1,450,000.
that's for total cost of everything
Serial
involved?
bonds.
Okay, I didn't see that listed under that amount.
Yes.
When it was broken down as to what the different amounts was. All right, that's what the total cost, including the interest charges and everything else for the bond and the payback. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Seeing no one, I make a motion to adjourn the rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, number 4.
Be resolved, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Jennifer Lyden to the position of full-time police assistant at the grade 6 level, step 1, annual salary $40,456, effective September 29, 2014, which appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 8 nor more than 26 weeks per civil service law. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Christina M. Joski to the position of part-time police assistant with the Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department at grade 6, step 1, salary of $19.45 per hour, effective October 6, 2014, which appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 8 nor more than 26 weeks per civil service law. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Sarah E. Rako to the position of part-time police assistant with the Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department at the grade 6, step 1, salary of $19.45 per hour, effective October 6, 2014, which appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 8 nor more than 26 weeks per civil service law. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Whereas the Town of Poughkeepsie by Resolution 9-3, Number 4 of 2014 authorized a 2-year lease extension with McAllister Transportation Group, Inc. for premises at 21 Tucker Drive effective October 1, 2014. Now therefore be resolved that the lease extension authorization is ratified and the town's clerk is authorized and directed to publish notice that the extension is subject to a permission referendum, and be it further resolved that this is a type 2 action requiring no secret review. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Amendment to the Town Code, tree preservation. Whereas the Town Board is considering an amendment to the Town Code to add a new section, Chapter 185, entitled Tree Preservation. And whereas the proposed amendment is attached hereto and incorporated herein, the Town Board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendment and does direct that said amendment be spread across the record as if it, in fact, had been read verbatim. And whereas the action to amend the zoning law is a Type 1 action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, whereas the amendment to the Town Code requires a public hearing. Now therefore be resolved, the Town Board hereby states that because only the Town Board consider and adopt changes to the Town Code, that is the only involved agency, the Board hereby declares that it is the lead agency for purposes of coordinating the environmental review of this matter pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law. 2, the Town Board hereby sets a public hearing on the proposed amendment of the Town Code for October 1st, 2014, 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may come to be heard in the Town Hall, 1 Over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. And 3, the Town Board directs the Town Clerk to notify the clerks of the surrounding municipalities of a public hearing pursuant to GML 239 NN. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions?
Yeah, Neil, you want to come up here for a second? Did you write this, Neil, first of all?
Give me your question, then I'll answer.
Page 3B. On any vacant residential lot in any zoning district where no site plan, special use permit, land contour permit, or building permit has been issued for a project on said lot.
Right.
That's not allowed. They're not going to be able, if you have a vacant quarter-acre lot, they're not going to be able to do any work on it?
Not without a permit.
So
Right.
you're basically
What
saying,
we-
a home, say Bill owns a half-acre lot and 2 quarter-acres, he can't touch that other lot without a permit?
In terms of removing trees, right?
I thought our discussion we wanted to restrict out, we don't want to deal with residential properties unless it's 5 acres or above.
Right, which
For
I put in
purposes of this
C, but
tree.
I had in my notes that we were also interested in covering vacant residential lots. If that's not correct, we can
Unless it's
change-
5 acres.
I would say 5
above.
acres or more.
Okay, then
Yeah.
we need to delete B. I had it different in my notes.
But should we just leave that in just in case somebody does come in to say, look, if you're gonna go
No.
clear cut that quarter acre, you could cause flooding? Is that something that we should think about?
Not
Or do we
something
find that
small.
it's
I
too
know.
small of
I think it's-
a component to it?
It's up to the board. But I know there was a fairly small piece of property in my ward where a person was buying it from a neighbor, and they were doing a lot line revision, I believe, and he went in and clear cutted it. He clear cut that small section, and the neighbors were extremely upset about that. There's a little shock to the system. I don't think we should have to always ask our next door neighbor permission to do whatever we want to do. My only concern would be that sometimes if you clear cut a lot of 5 acres and it's in a residential neighborhood, you could create some flooding issues and.
5
What am I
acres, I
feeling?
understand, a quarter acre is what I'm thinking of, because this says any. That's the problem.
Yeah,
If there's a
my-
higher number on it, I don't have
Right.
an issue with it.
What I had in my notes from our discussion meeting, committee of the whole, was we were interested in trying to capture and prevent the clearing of vacant residences, vacant, unoccupied, as opposed to something, a lot that has a house on it. And then the second category, which was C underneath it, would
I
apply to a
agree.
residential lot, occupied or not, of 5 acres and over.
That I don't have a problem with.
That's what we
Right.
discussed.
Okay.
I think the general consensus of the board was we didn't want to impact or, worry about the residential homeowner and the residential lot of a size less than 5 acres. So anything that, would refer to those residential lots, I would
Okay, I
just
mean, we
as
do
soon have
have
taken
some
out.
large vacant residential lots.
5 acre and above is
under-
fine.
Of up to 5 acres
Yeah.
that somebody could clear cut.
We also have the lot where there was a flag lot
and-
issue and
yeah,
a couple
that-
other things in the
that was-
sixth ward
against-
where all the neighbors came in and were upset. You can have a lot of, 5 acre piece of land is big.
Lot.
So if we exempt it out completely, there's the potential for somebody to just clear cut a really big piece of
My
property.
objective
And it
when-
would have I think we want to avoid the major developer from taking a huge swath of land and clear
Right,
cutting.
the-
But I think the time where you also have a lot of impact, it seems, is the past few years is when people take those lots that haven't been built on, they weren't the best building lots in the world, and now because the property values have become a little bit higher, they've decided to go back, circle back and build on them. So some of these vacant lots that aren't lived on, you can be impacting the neighbors significantly. So I think I'm fine with I think we should maybe change it, but I think we maybe not take it out
Oh,
completely.
no, I have no problem with the size wise, but I'm not, I know there's one right up in your neighborhood, Stefan, it's right next to the person, and it's a 1/4 acre lot, he owns it. If he goes and clear cuts that, even if he wants to prepare to sell it, it's a 1/4 acre, he's got no right to do it according to this, and I think he should have the right.
You may want to, maybe we add language that if it's contiguous to the owner's property, the owner's principal residence, that it's exempted out, something along those lines,
A
or
lot of those around.
The problem,
if you have a 1 acre lot and then you have another half acre,
Gotta base it
acre
on
next to you, and you
acreage.
want to clear it out because now you have kids and your kids need somewhere to play, yeah, we probably don't want to scoop all those people in, but there definitely have been issues over the past few years of smaller
There have.
lots.
I've seen them.
and I agree, and when those first came before us, if you remember, my objective was to only deal with the commercial
Right.
properties, the vacant commercial properties that we've seen up and down Route 9, that you wake up one morning and boom, the trees are gone. When we had the discussion here, the discussion of this board was, let's include 5 acres and above. But the reason we've stumbled around this and over this tree policy for years, last time we spoke about it was maybe, I don't know, 8 years ago, was because we started to entertain and try to think about how to deal with the residential homeowner. And that's why I just was going to leave
Right,
that
it
out
died on the
altogether.
vine.
No, I understand.
I'm in favor of definitely getting something done tonight, but I do think that somewhere in there we should look at that, so.
I think 5 acres, I think I'm fine with, I'm not fine with anything for residential, anybody smaller than that.
So
So what are we doing?
we're going to eliminate
I'm willing to
B.
back down, I just wanted to have it be heard, I just felt like, I hate this, I liked what, Stefan, what you were sort of saying is, I'd almost want the neighbors around the property that's about to be cleared know about it, just so that they don't wake up one morning and see it's gone. What happened to my privacy, or, where, I'm getting flooding, is it from that clearing? And I guess I'm just trying to say, that might fall in the crack, I want to try and protect them.
This ordinance doesn't prevent you from ever doing it, it requires you to get.
It requires you to get a permit.
It's almost,
exactly.
so we could come in and say, look, if you clear cut this property, you're gonna create a potential water hazard and privacy issues. I just think maybe if you let that resident know that, he may take a minute to say, maybe I won't cut them all down. That was all my thought was.
And Stefan's absolutely right. We're not saying you can't ever do it. What we're saying is you come before the town, show us you have a concrete plan, show us what you plan to do with the property, and then with, the proper approvals, then you can go in and start cutting trees. The aggravation I think we've all felt over the years is, like I said, you wake up one morning, you can drive up Route 9, all of a sudden there's a piece of property, whether it's an acre or half an acre, that
It's gone.
yesterday had trees all over it, and today is stumps and sawdust.
I agree.
Neil, on A leads into the previous page. A and B are the ones, I don't know
Yeah,
where they came from, but I think we need to reword A as well. C's fine, C's what we discussed.
I'm sorry, what's the rewording you're looking for on A?
I don't know, you tell me. I mean, 1A, it says on any lot,
Of any size located in the following zoning districts, and these are all of our either mixed-use or commercial districts.
all right.
That's fine.
It doesn't bother
So we're good then? I'm good with B being deleted.
Take B out. Look, we can always revisit. I think it's
I
important to get
agree, we can
something on
always,
the
Okay.
books.
I just don't think it
I'd like to get
belongs.
something on the books.
Okay.
We can always revisit,
All right, so we're going to
absolutely.
delete B, and then C gets renumbered.
Yes,
Okay.
good. And we can always revisit this and tweak it and, so forth to handle residential, but at least we have get something on the books to,
Todd, I want to make a motion and to delete B.
okay?
Second.
All those in favor of deleting B?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, and all those in favor of the amended resolution?
Aye.
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 Both motions passed, 7-0. All right, 9. Where are we? Bill?
Set date for public hearing?
Yeah.
Whereas the town board is considering an amendment to chapter 139 entitled Noise, and whereas the proposed amendment is attached hereto and incorporated herein, and the town board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendment, and does direct that said amendment be spread across the record as if it in fact had been read verbatim, and whereas the action amended to amend the noise law is a type 2 action requiring no SECA review, and whereas the amendment of Chapter 139 requires a public hearing, now be therefore resolved that the town board hereby sets a public hearing on the proposed amendment of the town code for October 1st, 2014 at 7 p.m., or as soon thereafter as the matter may come to be heard in the Town Hall, 1 Over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, and the town board directs the town clerk to notify the clerks of the surrounding municipalities of the public hearing pursuant to General Municipal Law 239 NN. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Neil, I'd still like to continue to work on this because I still want to get those motorcycles in this some way, some fashion. So
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
to sit down with you.
Yeah, I'm still kind of wrestling with
I'm
that.
on board with this, but we still need to take it a little further.
And this basically restricts the operation of heavy equipment on Saturdays. You have to wait until 10 a.m. to start, and you can't continue after 6 p.m. and restricts the use on Sundays and legal holidays. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to sign and submit to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development a repayment agreement in substantially the form annexed, with the repayment commencement dates to be determined by the town supervisor. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? This has to do with the Section 8 program, and we've talked about it for some time. We've been dealing with the federal government, trying to get them to respond to our repayment plan. It's in the 14 budget. We'll have it in the 15 budget too, and it looks like we may be finally getting that resolved, and we'll permanently, have it being handled by the city of Poughkeepsie. Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby authorize the town clerk to advertise for bids for sanitary pipe, TV inspections and cleaning pursuant to the plans and specifications prepared, which plans and specifications will be available on September 22nd, 2014, in the office of the town clerk, with a bid opening to be held on October 8th, 2014, at 11 a.m. Be it further resolved that the town board, town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby reserve the right to accept or reject all bids in whole or part. And be it further resolved that the town board is hereby determined that this action is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Hey, Todd, we're going to do this, or we're going to wait to see if we get the town and the village on board with this? Move ahead, or?
Since we were ready to go with some of ours and we're, being pushed by the DC, the thought was to go with this plan. We've got plenty more.
Okay.
Plenty more we're going to have to TV and clean, and, we've talked to Tri-Muni and the village and Wappingers, and when we do the next round, we can
We're
always.
trying to get the village and the town together, so we'll probably get a better price, because we all have to TV our lines.
Yeah.
Didn't hear the second on that.
Yeah.
Who seconded that?
Who seconded it?
Didn't get one.
Who read it? Joe?
I read it.
Mike read it.
I think Joe seconded it.
I did second it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the town board has received a positive recommendation pursuant to section 210-154 of the town code for the planning board dated August 25, 2014, in regard to an application for the Fairview Commons project tax parcel number 616205161788, also known as 66 Fulton Street, requesting an amendment to the town zoning code, chapter 21021, planned residential overlay district, and whereas the amendment requires a public hearing, and whereas the town board has received the recommendation dated April 2, 2013 from the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development stating that the proposed amendment is a matter of local concern without comments, now therefore be resolved, one, the town board hereby sets a public hearing on the proposed amendments for October 1, 2014 at 7 o'clock p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter may come to be heard in the Town Hall, 1 Over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, and 2, the town board directs the town clerk to notify the town clerks of each of the surrounding municipalities of the public hearing pursuant to GML 239-NN. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What's the proposed amendment? Because I don't see anything attached here. I don't see anything attached from the town. I see stuff from the applicant. What's the actual proposed amendment that subject to the public hearing? Anybody?
Bill's coming.
Rod?
It's to drop the planned residential overlay district on the subject property.
How is that a proposed amendment to the planned residential overlay district? That's an amendment?
Well, dropping the overlay district on the property is treated as a map amendment, yes. Right, so the PROD is an overlay district like the SHOD, the senior housing overlay. I mean, we've done it before where we're simply taking and designating a certain piece of property, in this case, the Fairview Commons property, the entirety of it as the planned residential overlay district.
I thought we just designated it as having the PROD. Each time we do it, we amend the town code to add that specific property into the town code under the PROD section?
Yes, exactly, yeah, just like we did the River Point project on Route 9, Alan Daniel and Jacob Freidman's. It's the same process. It's an overlay district, and the overlay district.
I didn't think it was done as a code amendment. I think that's how the language
it's a map amendment. It's, yeah. We've done it exactly the same way. I mean, the map is incorporated into the code, so it's a code, treated as a code amendment technically.
Sounds good to me.
This is the one we discussed about the pilot,
Right, right.
where we're going to somehow have that made part of a permanent deed restriction?
Yes.
Yeah, there's right. There are a number of agreements and other requirements that are part of the planned residential overlay district language that requires those agreements to be in place.
Okay, so
Right.
we can then require, by attaching it to the deed, future property owner to be bound by this?
There's a pilot requirement, which is the payment in lieu of taxes, which originally started out as a standby pilot. During the discussion on the language a couple of years ago, the standby language came out, and now it's just a requirement of a pilot. And that pilot, all by itself, that agreement, and whatever the terms of payments are, has to come back to this board at a future point in time for this board's approval. Now, all of that is contingent on this board actually granting the overlay district designation after public hearing. So there's still more work to be done.
The purpose of the pilot language, my understanding from the discussion of this board, was to prevent a not-for-profit from purchasing that project and then taking it off the tax rolls. But my understanding from when we looked at it, it was unenforceable. So it doesn't,
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I mean, we're talking about a pilot.
I
We're going to
couldn't agree
negotiate a
more.
pilot. We're going to put a pilot in place.
That's why it should have said standby
It should
pilot,
have
and
come
that
out entirely,
language
but it didn't.
was changed.
Right, but either way, it's unenforceable if a not-for-profit
But if it was
chooses to purchase
standby, we
property.
wouldn't have to do it.
Yeah, I'd love that entire section to come out, frankly.
But
Okay,
because-
so it doesn't,
we're talking about where we're binding future property owners to a pilot,
Right.
which is unenforceable.
and we can't do that.
You can for the property
Well,
owner.
you could if it wasn't-
You can for a property owner who is currently required to pay taxes, but you can't
Right.
for a not-for-profit.
The question
Makes
was
no
for
sense.
not-for-profit.
I see. It's basically useless language in the section that maybe makes some people feel good about it, but the reality is, if it's unenforceable, it makes no sense.
That's where we ended up. I couldn't agree more. But in terms of the original intention had been to try to deal with the potential of a not-for-profit coming in and purchasing the property, turning it to its own particular use, whatever that may be. One of the parts of the recommendation that you'll see in the planning board's recommendation to this board is, as a condition of your approval, assuming you approve it, and there's no guarantee that you will, assuming you approve it, that you approve it also with the requirement of a restrictive covenant. I've asked Josh Mackey to be here tonight to talk to you about that. I think that the restrictive covenant is probably the answer to the question of trying to find a lawful way of ensuring that the use as apartments, market rate, whatever you want to call them, remains as that. In other words, that you're not going to have an entity, a for-profit or not-for-profit, come in, purchase it, and then make those units only available for people of their choosing. And I'd actually like Josh to talk about that particular covenant.
So I mean, my impression of the project all along was, and again, in order to solve the problem of student housing in the neighborhood, you're going to build dorms basically in the middle of the neighborhood, but keep it on the tax rolls. So I haven't heard anything about the idea that you couldn't actually, there's no way to restrict it as who you're renting it to. So it basically would just be student-type housing in the middle of a neighborhood, which is clearly geared towards students, but we're not going to call it that.
No, we are calling it that. There's no mistake about it.
Okay,
It's being built
but what's the
to
restrictive
entertain the students,
covenant as far
because the
as?
students are wreaking havoc in the neighborhood.
No, but I've never.
Yeah, that's.
there's no
I'd like to
denying
turn it
that.
over to Josh to talk. We've been kicking this one around, and I think we may have the answer in terms of a covenant. Kind of putting aside the question of the pilot, I agree with you. I'd love to see the pilot language come out of that section of the code. It doesn't make any sense the way it is drafted.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
You can accomplish what you want to accomplish with pilot through a declaration of covenants that will attach to the deed. It'll run with the land. It'll bind the current owners as well as future owners. I have a draft here today that's been circulated.
Was it circulated to the town board?
Yeah, I did forward on one. I'll send it to you right now. I'll pass it over if you want to take a look at it. Basically, to get to where you want to go, which is you want to make this property, you want to ensure this property, I suppose, doesn't end up in the hands of Marist, and therefore as a not-for-profit entity that you're not going to be able to collect taxes from. You can impose a restrictive covenant on the property. We have to be a little careful about the language we use, but I think we've come up with something. We've proposed is that if you look on page 2 of the Declaration of Covenants, right at the top, paragraph 1, the property, for as long as it shall be used for any residential purpose, shall be occupied by those individuals comprising of the general public at large, and not limited to the occupancy by any particular body, organization, corporation, group, or class or category of occupants. So effectively what that does is if it were to become a Marist property, they'd have to make it available to members of the public, to workforce, to retirees, to anybody that wanted to come along and rent. If they didn't do that, this restrictive covenant also prescribes certain enforcement options for you, being something that you could inspect with the building inspector. Those details probably would have to be worked out, but there are some checks in here to ensure that there is compliance, and it would bind the current owners as well as future owners. The problem with the pilot is you're agreeing now with the current owner that's a for-profit owner. You're going to collect taxes from them. It doesn't really make any sense. This is you have a pilot which we have prepared. It's kind of we're agreeing to agree to a future pilot in the event you have to form another pilot agreement if a not-for-profit comes along. It's not enforceable against some future owner who we don't know who they are yet. So this restrictive covenant kind of works around that in a way, while at the same time it doesn't run afoul of restrictions on not-for-profits. You can't really do that. You can't say we're going to condition an approval conditioned on the fact that it's a for-profit entity. You can't do that. But what this does is, it, in a roundabout way, it requires that the housing be available to the public at large.
Whether it's a 30-year-old, two guys wanting to rent an apartment.
Right.
Okay, then how do we
Obviously,
justify that against the PROD ordinance, which says that it's designed to meet the housing needs of the following: working individuals, couples, families, and seniors?
Right. It's consistent with that.
That's exactly right.
So we're saying that it can be any person or any category of occupant as long as it's a working individual, couple, family, or...
Yeah, we can even add that, we can even add, more details.
You're not hearing what he's saying. The PROD, what he's saying, I don't think allows for student housing, correct?
Right. That's what
Well,
it's...
this is
gonna
the
be-
point is
Student
this
is an
available for
individual.
anybody who wants to
But
live
for
there.
anybody, guys, it's not.
We
if
know it's
more kids-
primarily.
But the PROD doesn't allow for housing built for students.
I'm
which-
not opining on whether the PROD says, the definition of, as I looked at the PROD and it talked about definition of a family and so forth, I mean, it's pretty ambiguous, in my opinion, about what it includes. It's quite broad. So that's not actually what I was saying. What I'm saying is, your concern is that this could end up, let's just pick on Marist for a moment, it's pretty obvious, we might as well call it what it is. If they became an owner of this, it's off the tax rolls. You'd have to go back to them and say, we want you to agree to a pilot, because this pilot with this applicant isn't going to necessarily bind some future owner. Declaration of covenants such as this, which requires the owner of this property to make it available to the public at large, and it includes students, but it includes seniors, and 30-year-olds, and 40-year-olds, and 50-year-olds.
So it includes this?
Yes.
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 Marist isn't going to.
So it's just backwards, it's a little convoluted.
The PROD doesn't, this PROD specifies certain groups that housing is to be built for.
But I think the whole thing has to do with binding future owners.
That was the idea of the pilot.
Right, but what you had pointed out, the PROD isn't set up for student housing.
PROD is set up for multifamily, and this is multifamily.
Anybody can live in it.
This is the definition of
But this isn't
multifamily.
multifamily housing.
By
It's the
people?
definition of multifamily,
But it's
sure it
being
does.
built, as student housing, it's not multifamily.
But it's not exclusively for students.
Anybody can move it?
Well, and here's with the restrictive covenants. If Marist buys the property and offers it up to their students, they fill it up, and they offer up anything that's not filled up to the general public, they haven't violated that restrictive covenant.
That's correct.
You could offer a preference to people.
Marist isn't going to do that.
But
The restrictive
practical.
covenant, the restrictive covenant is no better than the idea of a pilot.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's, you can candy coat it any way you want it, but at the end of the day, if Marist or a not-for-profit wanted to buy this, take it off the tax rolls, and rent it out to students or church members or synagogue members or whoever, they could do it. This restrictive covenant doesn't do anything to prevent that.
You're right, they'd have to form some other entity to.
I know, but when you come
Wait,
in and you
hear
say
me
that
out. So
this
they'd have
solves
to
the
form
problem,
another
it solves the
entity.
problem.
They'd have to form another entity
The
to
only problem
own
that
it.
you're trying to create, I think, Stefan. I mean,
But the issue
Marist could buy anything right now
Right, but the
they
issue
want.
remains that the pilot is unenforceable. If you ignore the pilot is unenforceable,
agreed with
the restrictive covenants that you're offering up don't accomplish what you're saying.
So is our limit
anyway.
of five people limited in the house, and we know we have houses with 12, we can't enforce that.
They do, because from a practical point of
What's the
view, a
point?
college doesn't typically own housing
rate
that it rents to the
Right.
public at large. They rent to students.
No, but
Beyond their
if-
mission
if-
statement.
If a not-for-profit bought this property, offered it up to certain people first as a priority, and then the general public if there was vacancy.
Colleges don't do that.
No, but what I'm saying is, well, if a college bought this, they'd fill it up with their students. So the restrictive covenant does nothing. All I'm trying to say is the restrictive covenant does nothing.
I disagree.
I have yet to see a not-for-profit that wasn't formed for a specific purpose. I'm talking a housing not-for-profit, whether it's for seniors or working family, whatever you may want to call it. We've kicked this around. I've talked to Josh about this. This seems to be the best and most stable way to address the underlying issue, which is trying to find a manner, a mechanism to discourage. You're right, Stefan.
Right, but
if there is a not-for-profit that is bound and determined to own this type of housing and run it and maintain it and available for the public at large, then yes, they could get to do that.
Well, and here's the thing, all I'm saying is this doesn't do anything.
Hopefully it'll be
And if
encouragement.
it's a tool that's, if a tool doesn't work, it's not a tool that's worth having.
I disagree that it won't work.
But
I
if
disagree that it
this
won't
was
work.
just handed to us 5 minutes ago, and
We're not
look-
voting on this, though.
You're not voting on
We're
it.
setting a public
You're not
hearing
voting
date.
on
No, what I'm saying is, in 5 minutes, I think that this doesn't actually accomplish what you said it would accomplish. And what you said is, yes, no, you said, yes, a not-for-profit could buy it, offer it up to a preferred group, and then fill what is vacant with the general public. So this doesn't prevent.
Taxes on that.
What?
Gotta Put the general public in there, they'd have to
Yeah,
pay
it
taxes
is,
on that part.
yeah, it's
college
the,
isn't gonna
it's
do
the.
that,
But
though.
Jay, what I'm saying is,
Do it.
It's the idea of a
if
preferred
I'm a
group.
not-for-profit and I buy this property, and I'm going to offer it to everybody that's in my synagogue, and I fill it 100% with members of my synagogue.
Then you
and-
violated the covenant. If what you've done is to
No, if
open
I-
it up.
if I had offered
If
it
you
to-
set up some kind of a hierarchy.
You lose your
And
nonprofit
said you're
status,
only
too.
allowed
You
to accept a certain, in other words, you've got a preferred group and you've got to fill the units with that preferred group, you would have violated the covenant.
Not really.
Of course you would. That's
Yes.
If
the
you-
whole point.
If you go to a lot of different communities where there's a certain group of people living in an area, they fill up a building and they fill up housing in the area, and there's no preferred or anything else. If Marist bought this and offered it up for housing and advertised it to their students, they haven't violated the covenant.
Yeah, as long
If
as
somebody
it's-
knocks on the door and
Right,
says,
as
I
long
want
as-
to rent,
as long as
somebody
they're
knocks on the
making it
door and says, I
available.
want to rent a room in the place, and you say, okay.
But I don't see them
Mayor's
doing
gonna do that?
But they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that.
Well, no, what I,
But ifs that aren't
but this
logically
this
gonna
doesn't
happen.
restrict, this wouldn't restrict a not-for-profit from buying that property and taking it off the tax rolls.
No, it would not.
You
Right,
can't,
it
you
would
can't do that.
Right.
But
Right, that's what I'm saying, you can't.
the code is what it is, and this is a,
Hopefully the
this is a
covenant,
workaround.
No, I know, but we
not
keep
for-
jumping through hoops to try to prevent something from happening that you can't prevent. Not-for-profits are tax exempt. That's not something the town of Poughkeepsie can alter or change. So this and the pilot are a
pilot's
waste
a
of,
moot point.
are a waste of time and effort because they don't work. If a not-for-profit buys that property, they take it off the tax rolls, period.
Yeah, I'd like to see the pilot language go altogether. I agree with you.
I agree.
But this isn't going to work either.
I disagree.
I
I disagree.
disagree that this has a chance of
I
working.
disagree. I think that this has the best chance of working of all of the things that we've explored.
You guarantee that this will work?
I'm not
that
going to
this-
guarantee that, of course
Right, well,
not.
Josh had
Yes.
just
thank you.
said, Mr. Mackey, had
Josh
just,
is
I mean,
fine.
in terms of its enforceability, yeah, but I'm not going to guarantee that you're not going to have a not-for-profit that's going to be willing to step in and say, yeah, fine, I'll live within the confines of the covenant, and I'm going to take it off the tax rolls. That's what I'm not going to guarantee.
I think they could do that pretty easily and service their own group
But
of
I do
people.
not see a not-for-profit doing that. They're formed for a particular purpose, formed in the case of housing to provide housing for a particular demographic or
Well,
subgroup.
you're not going to have, it wouldn't be a random not-for-profit. It would be, Marist College would buy it.
It would be
or-
Marist. And hopefully this will
Marist.
discourage them from,
It could be any group that forms a not-for-profit. It doesn't have to be the college.
Right.
If we wanted to create a not-for-profit to run pick any of the topics, drug rehabilitation, any number of things, we're entitled to do that, and we're entitled to acquire this piece of property. And we can't, people own the
But
property, we
there's-
can't control what they're gonna do with it, but to a certain extent, under zoning, I'm concerned about the people up there having another chunk come off the tax rolls. That's why I was very interested in this covenant
It's
thing.
exactly why it's exactly the issue we've been struggling with from day one, and particularly up in the Fourth Ward. We have something on over 50% of the properties off the tax rolls already.
That was my main concern. Then reading it and seeing that it doesn't match. The words from this don't match the words from that. That doesn't look very neat.
well, our best attempt, if you're genuine and you're concerned about the people in the Fairview District, getting something like this project on the tax rolls and getting it off the ground is the best, I think, chance we've got of helping them. We've tried enforcement. The chief was up here 2 months ago pleading with us to help him better, control what's going on up there. I agree with you. The residents in the Fourth Ward need taxables and they need some type of help with the college situation. And at least this will.
Listen, we have 2 colleges, a hospital, a lot of state property up there. We need something writables on there. The Home Depot Plaza is not cutting it for my residents. We need help. The fire district needs help. This is going to put $130,000 a year in the fire district.
We're going to try to make it unattractive to a not-for-profit with a covenant as best we can. No, we can't stop them from purchasing. but-
Building this strictly to add tax revenue, if that's the case.
Housing too. I've got all the kids living in housing.
If it's strictly to add tax revenue, then that doesn't make any sense, because that
helps.
You would be
Oh, I'm not
completely
saying
rolling
it's
the dice.
strictly for
No, no, but right, building it, if you're just trying to add tax revenue.
Why?
Because it doesn't prevent it. The idea that this
Nothing
restrictive
does.
covenant.
What are you gonna?
No, I know, but we, well,
This
the only
land
thing.
remains vacant. Mayor's gonna walk in much easier tomorrow and buy it than they could with the restrictive covenant. I mean, I disagree that it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't matter either way. The way it is now or with this.
Right, so
That's the only thing I'm saying is this doesn't do
All right,
anything.
well then, I
think
don't
add some
care,
layer.
my view is,
It doesn't
the reason we're searching for something to try to keep a not-for-profit out is because of the issues you raised. I think last time we spoke, I don't care if we have either one. I believe this project is a project that we ought to move forward with. I've stated that. I can give you the reasons, the why in terms of whether it's fire safety. I mean, we've heard about some of the homes in the Fairview area being older homes, the way they were constructed, they're just matchboxes ready to go up. This is going to be new construction, which is fire retardant. It's going to be fully sprinklered. It adds to the tax rolls. I mean, I can, give you the reasons I like the project.
The only thing I'm saying is.
Want to try to move
the
forward
pilot
with
and
it.
the restrictive covenant don't work.
Then that's fine, then let's not do them. Let's make it a
Because
they know full well
they
that.
don't work, and they know they don't work, I'm guessing Marist would pretty much know that it's.
Well, do you want to put
No, well, it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't work, you don't put it in.
a restrictive covenant? How much extra work is that? I mean, if it
No, but
might make it.
if it doesn't work, then it doesn't matter.
No, I'm
You can
not,
put it-
I
you can put
think
it
you're
in,
the
you
one
can
who's
take it out.
convinced it's not going to work. I think we've had Neil
Brian.
and Josh say it's something we can put in place to make it less desirable for a not-for-profit. And, it's something. What difference what does it having it there?
It doesn't make a difference having it there, but it doesn't, it doesn't.
You know?
The idea that it's guaranteeing anything,
They didn't
it's not.
guarantee it. It's a.
Or the idea that it's changing, again.
No, I hear you.
Well, covenant or no covenant, I think this is a great project. You know what? We have all them old houses up there, and God forbid the fire that happened up there wasn't one of the better kept houses. This may get some of these residents that could come to our meetings time and time again, asking for their neighborhood back. This may get some of the residents that people that own houses up there to rent them out to families, and they get their neighborhoods back. They're going to be in state-of-the-art housing. These students come back whenever they're out partying, they'll pass out. They're going to have security there and things. I think it's going to be an overall win-win because the college is only going to get bigger. And if we don't get in and get something out of them, we're not going to get anything out of them. And this is one of the roots.
Yeah, and furthermore,
I agree.
Neil and I know several colleges where they have for-profit apartments for the students that are successful, and the universities are not interested in buying them. They're
This is a-
successful, they're making money, the owners want to keep them because they're successful.
This is a very popular thing. My children lived in those off-campus housing, and it was a great thing. They basically, you housed them, you corralled them in one spot, they kept them under control. They rented out 1 or 2 units to police officers. On top of it, you had police cars there. They had their own recreation facilities. They had their pools. They had rec centers. They kept them all in that one spot, so they weren't roaming through the neighborhood and having all their wild parties all hours. And I think this is a definite step where we can get it. And, I don't think they'll have any problem filling it because we have more than one college here. You got the culinary, you got that. I think it'll help the police department because it'll all be in one spot. I don't think it'll up the calls to Fairview because you'll be moving people around in different areas. Because that, from what I think, I'm not 100% sure, I think Marist, grade point average goes by whether you can live on campus or off campus. Comes a point where this will, some of the ones that have the lower grade point average are the ones that are off campus, where now we'd have them in our own housed area, which I think would be a blessing to the police department and everybody else, the fire department.
If
Great points.
If
Great points.
Marist is planning on building 400 more beds,
Yes, netting, yes.
I mean, ideally, isn't it the best solution if Marist builds them on their campus, on their side of Route 9? Because then they police them themselves, they babysit them, they maintain them,
The problem is
and they're
that
not in the neighborhood.
you still have them across the street.
No, but what I'm saying is ideally, if your concern is how to corral the kids, the best way to corral them would be on their campus,
But our
under
police
their
department
control,
will go
under
there.
their security.
But unfortunately,
Marist has layers and layers of security. That's the best way to keep them out of the town residents' hair and out of the town police's.
You're never going to
Balls.
get Marist to tell all the kids they
Yeah.
have to live on campus. Marist is never going to build enough housing on campus to get all the kids out of the community. And you're never going to get all the landlords to pay attention to the rules that the town has put in place to
This
protect the
resolution is
residents.
just
So-
a
Yeah, and I just got contacted by a constituent that freshman got caught up in a nuisance party. This is a freshman that should be corralled on the campus, and yet he found an off-campus party. So nothing is 100%.
I've heard of freshmen going to parties.
No.
Yeah, but this was an off-campus party. He should have been in his dorm.
That's not gonna
That
happen.
Ian?
I think we should go forward. This is set the
You're-
public
you're
hearing
setting
and
the
let the
public hearing.
public
I'm
come
sure
and
there'll
have their
be plenty
say.
of additional comments.
Yeah.
And, I'll continue to work with Josh and buffing up the language and getting it
Neil,
back to
can
you.
you make sure this resolution that we just received in paper, is electronically
Yeah.
distributed?
Just go
We'll
back
send
to
it
my
out.
original point. If the pilot doesn't work, the language shouldn't be in there because it doesn't make any
Well, we
sense.
gotta change
If the
it.
restrictive covenants don't work, that shouldn't be in there. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I disagree
And the-
that the
And
restricted
the
covenants
reality
will work,
is,
but the pilot,
the
I couldn't
reality
agree more.
is,
The
I'm not-
pilot should come out, yeah.
the reality is, I don't know that it's a great idea given the location and the type of housing and the situation with the other issues. If he's concerned about having students in the neighborhood, this is right in the middle of the neighborhood. I actually would hope that it does work, because if it does work, then it wins, it's a win for everybody because the kids are in safe housing, the neighbors don't have to deal with them as much, and it stays on the tax rolls. If it doesn't work, it could be a huge mess. So I have some concerns about the fact that it may not work, and the downside risk is pretty high, but I do hope that it works. Regarding the pilot and the tax situation, again, the only thing that I was trying to say is, it doesn't make, I've never been in favor of putting language into the law or passing laws that make no sense, that aren't enforceable, that don't work. So my only issue on the front end here was, the pilot doesn't work, so it shouldn't be in there. Because
I would
it
be
makes
happy
no
to
sense.
give you an
The
amendment to
restrictive
delete that
covenants, I don't.
section.
Let's do that.
I
It
honestly
doesn't
don't
belong
think
in
the
there.
restrictive covenants do too much. If this goes forward, I don't really care if they're in there or not in there, because I don't think it makes a difference.
Let's take,
My 2
work
cents.
on
happy
Stefan's
to
suggestion.
give you
How do
an
we
amendment.
pile
How do we do
language
this
out
in
of
terms
that?
of-
He's right.
Frankly, it's taken the discussion about this project in, down various paths. And pilots are not well understood. I would love to see the language come out, but we're reacting to what's in the code right now. I'd love to see it come out, and I'll be happy to give you that amendment.
And our intent with the pilot, I mean, just so we're clear, we never, and the applicant knows it, I've stated it to the applicant, to anybody that would listen. Stefan's absolutely right. When our first discussion regarding the pilot was hopes of tying the taxes or the payments in lieu of taxes to the land. The intent was never any type of tax abatement on this property
No.
in any way, shape, or form, so.
Right.
Now, the question I have is technically, if we set the public hearing on what we have in front of us, is that what do we need to amend this first and then set the public hearing?
You know what? We probably should
We should,
amend it. We can run it concurrently. What I would ask you to do is probably hold over the public hearing in October. We should still go forward with the public hearing on drop, because this is about a project.
okay.
But the language in terms of the pilot that should be deleted from the existing code, I can very quickly give you that, and we can make
And
that
it'll be just
amendment.
So we
that
can
one
set it for the
deletion.
public hearing as we've planned,
Yes.
and then adjourn the public hearing and do whatever modifications we want and come back to the public hearing.
Right.
And can we get it
Right
more,
way to do this.
can we get it more than an hour and a half into the meeting?
90 minutes?
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's no problem. I'll be happy to give that to you.
Good, all right.
Okay.
Anything else?
The land contour and,
Oh, yeah, we got to get to that next. Yeah, so you're still on setting the public hearing.
Yeah,
right?
we are on Senate Public. All right, so we've got a motion and a second on agenda item number 12.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Abstained.
Motion passes 5-0, one abstention, and Jay left the room for a moment. All right, number 13.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept the land contour easement agreement with the performance bond for land contouring activity in regard to the project known as Fairview Commons. And be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to sign the land contour easement agreement and to accept the performance bond for land contour activity in regard to the land contour permit for the project known as Fairview Commons. And be it further resolved that such acceptance and authorization by the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie is subject to approval of all final documents by the attorney for the town and town engineer, the director of municipal development for the town of Poughkeepsie. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a
Before
support.
you vote, there's just one addition to that. You need, after hereby accept, you want to insert stormwater easement and maintenance agreement. You're going to need those at this stage too. And then again later at site plan.
Do we have any of those?
Yes.
Do we, but
We have-
we're voting,
We have drafts of them. We've been working on them. This authorizes the supervisor to sign them once they've been finalized, reviewed by me and Josh.
but we're accepting them and authorizing the signature. Has anybody seen them?
Yeah, these are standard agreements. I mean, we've done this before. No, we don't have the drafts for you yet.
But
We've been
normally
working
they'd
on
be,
them. They're in progress, right?
They're pretty much finalized. All those documents are finalized. The only thing that remains is this declaration of covenants.
Well, but the declaration of covenants is.
Is later.
It's for later.
They're in
This is
final-
just on the land
This
contour
is-
permit
yeah.
portion of it.
but can we accept an agreement that none of us have read?
We have done it before.
It's not attached to
Are
the.
you're gonna read the land contour easement
No,
agreement?
I'm just saying it's not attached to the resolution. It's not attached to the resolution.
Well, it is, pardon me.
It is,
Go ahead. I mean,
It's subject to the approval of the attorney for the town engineer, and the director of development. I have, I'm conflict. Let's go get Josh. You.
Yeah, so I approved them last week and earlier this week, and I emailed them on to the town.
to the town board or the town?
no, you have not received them. I've been going through them. I have not received or I have not reviewed the stormwater portion of it. The other documents I've looked at, but I actually have not had a chance to talk with Josh about them. So these are the bonding and security agreements.
Can you get these done? We can have a special meeting next week to approve this resolution if that's
And they
needed.
look exactly like the other stormwater agreement
we can do
agreements
that.
that I've worked on for you in the past over at Vassar and for All Space.
It's not extraordinary, but if you want, we can do it next week.
No,
you'd like.
If you
wanna do it
want to
now,
review
it's
the
fine.
final documents, we'll get you the final documents.
It's up to, if you want to do it now, go ahead. It's fine with me.
Well, it's kind of contingent upon
Yeah,
the
vote
town
on that.
attorney, the engineer, and the
Yeah.
director. So we have three people we can hold feet
Who's
to.
gonna look at it anyway? Yeah.
Is there-
Let's vote on it.
Want to vote on it?
Okay, I think we should vote on it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion passes 6-0 with one abstention. All right, 14.
Whereas the New York Healthy Workplace Advocates is working to increase awareness of bullying in the workplace, now therefore be resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby declare October 19th to the 25th, 2014, Freedom from Workplace Bullies Week. And be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to forward the attached proclamation to New York Healthy Workplace Advocates. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Todd, is this something just us, or is this something statewide, or?
Yeah, I think we received it. Yeah, I think it's a part of Healthy New York.
Okay.
You know, I don't, obviously think there's an issue in the town, but we support that cause. Else, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby set the first day of October 2014 at 7:00 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Overrock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the time, date, and place of a public hearing in regard to the special district assessment roll, which concerns the water district, sewer districts, and drainage districts of the town of Poughkeepsie. And be it further resolved that said proposed special district budgets are on file in the town of Poughkeepsie clerk's office and available for review. So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Felicia, is this the meeting we have that confuses residents every year? Have you sent these notices?
Excuse me, I don't send them.
Who does?
Kathy Tabor.
Kathy sends
My name gets put on them all, and they call me day in and day out.
Let's
And
try.
I don't understand it.
Well, it's a matter of, it always concerns people. Hold on. Felicia, maybe you can remind me and help me if these haven't gone out. Let's try to we'll put a note on there or something so people maybe understand a little
Well, when
bit.
it says that they're on file in my office, they bring them up, but we don't
No,
really understand.
every year it creates concerns for residents. I just want to Just try to remind me, would you?
I've been here a long time too, and I
Guess I
still
forget.
can't get a handle.
I know.
Didn't Kathy a few years ago reword the way the
think she
notice
might have,
is?
'cause
And
we
it
talked
prevented
about
most, because we used to have a pact for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and she reworded the way the notice, the way she sent.
She?
Yeah, and I think we get one or two now, but we used to.
All right, well,
pact
that'd be good then,
I
yeah.
think.
I missed it.
Kathy Tabor reworded the notice a few years back, I
You
think.
might have, Stefan, you might be right, because I know
Doesn't
it's, don't worry about
working.
it. I'll try to talk to her and see if she hasn't, but maybe you're right, it's just, I don't want people to,
Or there's something that goes out with, there was something that.
Don't want 'em to
or
come
something
in.
goes
The
out
word
with tax
assessment
bills.
in there, and that's the only word
I
they
know,
see.
I know.
And so that's what they think, that their house is
or we'll talk
assessed.
to her and see. If she hasn't, maybe she can do something else, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the settlement of a tax certiorari proceeding instituted by HGP Realty Corp. For the tax assessed roll of 2014 as shown on the attached consent order and judgment. And be further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize Todd N. Tancredi, Supervisor, Kyle Barrett, Esquire of Vanderwater LLP, and Kathleen Tabor, Town Assessor, to sign such papers as necessary to effectuate said settlement, and as a result of said settlement, the town will issue a corrected bill. So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, any discussion?
Is there a refund on this one?
I think there is a refund, and it's within our budgeted allotment, but I don't recall the refund amount.
What property is this?
This is, I think this is
Isn't this,
the Ginsburg
yes, in this
Casper-
Casperkill?
Brickell property. It's the
Casper-
part,
That's 16B.
35-page part.
This is this one.
part up by Route 9, the town center. And
Yeah.
then,
This is the golf course.
Back page. On 55.
16A.
It says
yeah,
35-page
HGP
Park Drive
Realty.
description.
Yeah, it's on
Oh, it's not.
Manchester Road.
No, it's
Back
not,
in.
no, it's
That's
not.
here.
Bill.
Page Park Drive, whatever that is.
I mean, I don't know, maybe that tax map, I don't know what that is. The Casperkill
HGPH.
and the town center, the town center's the piece on Casperkill, it's up by Route 9.
But this
Remember that? I don't
this
know what
does-
I don't know what
this
that is.
HEP Realty,
I don't know what
which
that
could
is.
be HG Page Realty.
It says
It says Page
35-page
Park
Park
Drive.
Drive.
Yeah, but HG Page isn't
Then
even
it's
in town.
maybe page one.
Where,
This is Route
Right, it's
55,
in
Manchester.
Grange.
It says 35.
Building out by the road. That's,
Oh, you know what that is?
this is the old railroad tracks.
Yeah, that's the, I think that's the cell
Behind
tower.
Page
I
Park,
think
on
it's
the
the
other
cell
side of the
tower
railroad.
building.
Yeah,
Three of them, I think there's a cell, I mean, we can hold it up if you want.
no, I'm just.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, I think. it-
Behind pages, behind the
I
building.
usually ask, I didn't, I think that's what it is. You want to, Jim, do you think, I mean, it's tax cert settlements, can we wait until?
No, I'm fine.
All right
I
with
just
it?
wanted to know where it was.
I think it's the cell tower,
Just to understand where the
yeah.
property values
yeah.
are.
It just says payment.
Definitely not
Paying
Ginsburg.
amount,
Get it.
that's why.
no, the
Is there, a-
Jim, would you do me a favor?
Yep.
Would you make sure from now on, when these resolutions are written, we have the property, you know, these legal names, so we know where they are and what they are.
There is an address in the paperwork, but
It's a pain, yeah, but we still don't know
Or
what
how
it is.
much.
A pain in the neck.
well, if we could get a quick memo from the attorney handling the tax cert that says, here's what it
Quicker
is.
than this, yeah.
Yeah, it would be much, we used to get a cover letter, but I mean, it doesn't even have to be, we used to get like a letter explaining it, but even just a memo that
Next
says,
one has a letter.
here's a property, here's what we're doing.
I mean, I
here's
could
general
copy you on
rationale.
every single one. we-
Even then, sometimes those cover letters we have the legal name.
And it's the house
Yeah, we don't know what it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what
by
you're talking
Ford.
Because some of these make sense and some of these I have concerns because when we lower
what-
these tax settlements on commercial,
Yeah.
we're hitting the other commercial in that district and we're also hitting the residential.
I mean, most of these, as you know, I mean, if we can go to court if we'd
No, I know.
like, but you understand, we need to.
Yeah.
It's always
There
hard
is a memo on the last page that's attached. It's from Kathy Tabor. It says, advise that I've come to a settlement with HGP Realty, property 35 Page Drive, property which has a cell tower and large vacant building.
We don't have that, we
I
don't
didn't
have
get
that
that.
page.
did get that.
That's right next,
Get that page.
that's right next to my
Problem.
restrictive covenants.
that page.
Well,
That's the whole problem, yeah, it's a cell tower. And what else? Does it say anything else?
Vacant.
And a large vacant building in
Right
fair
there.
condition.
Oh.
Doesn't say what the money is?
It says the assessment went from 700,000 down by 181,000.
Okay.
All right, everybody all right? Steven, you all right with this? You okay?
Yeah.
All right.
In general, and with this.
All right.
Well, let's just say with.
And we'll try to make sure we have a better description other than the legal names, because it's kind of hard to figure out sometimes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, 16B. All right, be resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize a settlement of tax review proceedings instituted by this Cash Per Kill I LLC for the tax assessment rolls of 2008 to 2014, as shown in the attached consent and judgment, and be further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize Todd N. Tancredi Supervisor, Kyle Burnett Esquire, Vanderwater and Vanderwater LLP, and Kathleen Tabor, Town Assessor, to sign such papers as are necessary to effectuate settlement. So moved.
Second.
This is the
This is
cash per kill. Yes, this is the cash per kill.
All right, so they're going from 5 million down to 800,000, or no, sorry, down to 3,800,000.
Yeah.
Wait, no, 5 million to 3 million on one, 230 down to 212 on the other. Is this the golf course?
Yes.
I believe it is, yep.
And so the school district is paying a refund of $40,000?
I would think it would be, our refund is
For 40,000, just for 1
35.6, so
year.
I bet it's more than that. Since it's,
All right, the town refund's 35,000.
Yes.
So the school district is the 16 plus the 18 plus the 39 plus the 32
yeah,
plus the 12 plus the
Yep.
15 plus
Yep.
the 40. Wow.
Yep.
So the school district, did they participate in this settlement?
they don't typically, they always, you know, they're,
Arlington does, right? Doesn't one of
I
the,
don't think any of them participates very much. They're all given the opportunity to, but they typically pass on it.
so we have the money in our budget for this, is
Yeah.
this being paid this year?
We're still under, we have 300,000 budget, yeah, we're still under that.
Have we spoken to the school district? They're aware of the settlement, right?
I'm sure they are. Kathleen usually, does all that.
Because, I mean, it's,
They're notified typically when the tax cert is, I mean, it's been ongoing for,
it's just,
years.
it's a pretty big one. And my concern is that with everything else, when you have
Not a little one.
2%,
The
2% tax
districts
cap and people are
receive
cutting.
notice at the beginning, and some of them choose to participate, and others
Usually.
choose to rely on the town. I don't see anything in these records before me that indicates that the district participated or was copied.
Do we, as a matter of course, at the end of the process, when we've reached a settlement, notify the school district? Because I'd like it if we did for two reasons. One, so they know what's coming down the pike. The other is so that they can't come back and say, we did it to them. Because they have the opportunity.
Well, I'm sure they'll say that.
They have the opportunity to participate. When they don't, I think it hurts everybody because we don't get their input at all. And they're the ones with the largest tax burden and tax refund.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense, we could do that, sure.
I think the reason they don't participate is probably to not have the attorney fees and,
I know, but
Yeah.
the reason we participate is because we want to partake in this and take some responsibility for what we're doing. I think everybody.
much
I think
choice.
Right,
Yeah.
I know, but government. in
I
general,
agree with you, yeah.
If you're part of the process, you should actually.
Well, we could just send
One
them
way or the
a
other.
And
letter
I also
going through
thought the school
process.
districts, the excess from their budget that they rolled over for these situations, that they held on to the excess of the budget at the end of the year.
But they don't have much in the way of excess these days, 'cause they're cutting teachers and cutting everything.
But
Why don't we just-
Back and Kill had significant in the past.
Well, we could just make a notification that we're going through the process. If they want in, they could contact.
Well, I think they have, like Jim said, they're notified at the very beginning. I'll ask Kathy to send us all a memo outlining how they're informed at the end, the process. All right, so we have a motion and a second on 16B. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby authorized a settlement of the tax review proceeding instituted by Town Center Poughkeepsie LLC for the tax assessment rolls of 2008 through 2014 as shown on the attached consent judgment. And be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby authorized Todd N. Tancredi, Supervisor, Kyle Barnett, Esquire, Vanderwater LLP, and Kathleen Tabor, Town Assessor, to sign such papers as are necessary to effectuate said settlement. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
So
The
this is
town
more the
refunded.
same overall.
This is the town center, which is that, remember that half circle up by Route 9?
But it's still that Ginsburg property over
Yes,
there?
yep. Town refund on this is 13,682.
Do we know that their taxes are all paid in full, up to date?
I don't
Do we
know
And does
that.
our refund, if they haven't paid their tax bills, if they're not current on their tax bills, do we still issue the refund check, or do we hold that?
I don't know that answer.
I don't know. My assumption is that to some extent, there's an option to not pay on time, in exchange for which you have the opportunity to pay the penalties and fees till it goes to lien.
Kind of general, in life, that's kind of the way it is, right?
I know that.
But what I'm saying is, if they owe us taxes,
We shouldn't be right.
are we going to cut them a refund check of us and/or the school district? Are we going to be required to cut a refund check back to them off the tax bill that's outstanding?
I would bet we would, and I would bet their tax bill would continue to accumulate interest. I don't think they owe us. I know over the last number of years, we've kind of watched this, and they've always paid. I would bet we would refund it because it's a separate.
There was a point, I think, we were behind, correct?
Yeah, I think they were late. But I would bet we'd pay it, and they'd still accumulate charges and.
But in general, can we make sure that we don't pay a refund back to somebody that owes taxes, or can we offset it against the taxes that they owe in general? Not just this, but
You think we can?
in
Doesn't it
general.
have to be in the settlement?
No, I'm pointing, saying I wrote down, and I'm going to find out. I don't know the.
That's a good
I have
question.
my doubts, but I'll
Just
find.
because this case goes back to 2008.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of money going back as a refund from us in the school district. And if for some reason they're behind in their current taxes, or any property owner is behind in their current taxes, I'd be hesitant to cut them a check for a refund. It would sort of be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Have to see what the judge's order says.
I just want to make sure somewhere in the process we're looking at that.
Jim,
Good call.
Jim will check it out. So we have a motion and a second for 16C. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1. Bill?
Me?
That's you.
That's you.
17A, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby assign the following tax certiorari proceedings recently filed to Kyle W. Barnett, Esquire of Vanderwater and Vanderwater, to represent the town at an hourly rate of $185. And the list is attached. Do I need to read the list?
No.
Okay. So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby assign the following tax certiorari proceedings recently filed to Karen Hagstrom, Esquire of Corbally, Gartland, and Rapplier LLP, to represent the town at the hourly rate of $185. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas orders to remedy, copies of which attached hereto have been issued for property located at 44 Wendy Drive, Town of Poughkeepsie, State of New York, pursuant to Chapter 159 of the Town of Poughkeepsie Town Code, and whereas said orders to remedy have not been complied with, now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby set the 15th day of October 2014 at 7 p.m. Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Echo Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the time, date, and place of a public hearing to consider recommendation from the zoning administrator that the town or its contractor remove and as needed continue to remove all garden waste, fallen tree limbs, cuts, and continues to cut the grass to a height not to exceed 6 inches, and to remove and continue to remove all solid waste, debris, and litter, all at the above property so that it will not become overgrown and unsightly, the cost of which work shall constitute a lien and charge on the real property until paid, satisfied, or discharged, and shall be collected in the same manner as other town charges. So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Sarah, you have anything other than what we just read?
Actually, this property has been cut,
Yeah.
and somebody signed for the notice. The debris, there's a lot of debris, a lot of raw garbage there that has
Wanna-
not been cleaned up.
So you want to keep it on for
I'd like to.
that purpose?
and Hopefully work with somebody to get it done
Okay.
besides us.
All right. Anything
What date
else?
did you set for public hearing?
October 15th, I think.
October
October,
15th.
that's fine.
All right. Anything else?
I have a question.
Sure.
Is there anywhere other than the Poughkeepsie Journal that we can publish
I wish there
notice? I mean, can we do it on our website now?
I've asked, it'd be great if we could.
Is there
That's Jim.
clerks meetings, anything that
The
they've?
last time I
That's a
looked,
state requirement, isn't
we
it?
couldn't do it electronically.
It's,
I looked about,
I don't know why they don't change that, but that's
Because
something
it-
our state can do to reduce our costs.
It becomes ridiculous because we're supporting a paper that I don't read, and a lot of people don't read, but the reality is, it's becoming fewer and fewer people read the newspaper and and more people get their news online. We're paying fees to advertise something to make sure that people see it. It would make more sense to be putting these online.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And
I
if-
agree 100%.
As well, you're
And if we
saying.
could,
No, instead of.
Should have a little bulletin.
Well, I understand that
website,
too, but.
Public hearings.
Jim, can we add a home run rule that anything we post be charged back into the cost of doing business on this property?
and so happens,
I mean,
That I-
home run
that I
rule,
would
we could
check.
probably do that.
Legal side.
But we
great,
used-
these are all these questions, I don't know the answers, but
on the upside.
so yeah, I'll check.
On the upside, I did get a letter from my Senator Terry Gibson after a couple years in office, saying that he's available to help us if we need anything. So that may be something our senator could work on for us.
That would be a good thing, because I agree 100%. It's kind of an antiquated rule that,
It makes no sense. It's not,
Look for the homeowner already.
I mean, they took off, they're
You
not-
send him letters, so the only people that are going to read them really aren't,
yeah.
is the
And
homeowner.
the purpose of publication so the public knows by putting in the Poughkeepsie Journal, it's not really.
Do we definitely have to publish these particular ones? That's my question. I don't think,
we will look into it. It's a question I've asked. I think it's a
Well,
great
well, that's a
question.
I don't-
question, because if the actual homeowner,
Is go-
if you either serve the homeowner or you nail and mail, I guess.
that's, I think.
Haven't you covered the notice requirements? So shouldn't we be able to,
We've gone back and forth with this particular
Yes.
one, but
I'll add it to the
look
list.
into that? It
The
just,
core issue is notice, it's due process, it's the opportunity.
right, so if I'm the
Why
homeowner
you're
and
asking.
I get actual notice of that, why would we need to put these in the newspaper?
I want to find out if there's something
Because
that,
it doesn't matter to anybody else in the world other than me or maybe the bank that,
Or if the
I might
homeowner
owe
doesn't
money to.
sign it.
sometimes you
That's
put them
where
in the
you-
paper and then they're taken care of, in my opinion.
and don't the banks have like an address to serve notice of process so that those are pretty easy to take care of?
Sarah serves
Notice
by
of-
mail, everybody with an
I
interest
post
in the property already.
She puts it on the
Certified
property.
Well, Jim, you get the gist of what, the board's saying, what Stefan's
Drift.
bringing up. So, if you can check into, we'd like to find a way that would maybe
Cheaper.
Make it cheaper.
like less expensive and potentially less cumbersome. So we have a motion and a second on 18. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Joe?
Whereas an order to remedy, a copy of which is attached hereto, has been issued for property located at 28 Millbank Road, Town of Poughkeepsie, State of New York, pursuant to Chapter 159 of the Town of Poughkeepsie Code, and whereas said order to remedy has not been complied with, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby set the 15th day of October 2014 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the time, date, and place of a public hearing to consider a recommendation from the zoning administrator that the town or its contractor remove and as needed continue to remove all garden waste, fallen tree limbs, cut and continue to cut the grass to a height not to exceed 6 inches and maintain throughout the growing season so as not to become overgrown and unsightly, the cost of which work shall constitute a lien and charge of the above real property until paid, satisfied, or discharged, and shall be collected in the same manner as other town charges. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. And here's the thing that irritates me about this particular one. I'll jump in. We went through this, we've had this resolution on this particular residence, last year, maybe the year before. I thought we had stated previously that if we've done this previous on a particular residence, we don't have to
I don't think
do it.
we finished.
Wasn't it,
Hasn't our contractor cut this in the past?
wasn't this occupied? Is this the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Yes.
He did.
No, he's been moved out since.
Yeah, isn't it sitting empty now?
He lives somewhere in
Yeah.
the area.
I believe so.
His
I
name's
don't
not
know.
on the property?
We did do a mow and continue to mow
Name's not on it.
amendment, I
I'm telling you.
think.
No, he's
I
still.
saw the prior occupant at the local grocery store.
He's around,
I
I
know,
don't
but
know where.
his
but
name's
he's-
not
he's
on the
in-
property.
He's not in this house, he's been
No.
out for some time. But that'd be my question on this
I
one.
thought the building department did that. I did not do that.
Are we redoing it because the
So I
last one was
don't-
occupied
I'm
now
not
it's
aware
occupied?
if we're doing it
It's
again.
been out, it's just,
Yeah, I
it's
don't think.
been out. I
could figure it out by then.
A while back. The bank had done it for a while, now they're not doing it, you know. I and some of the other neighbors had noticed it's getting long, so I mentioned it to Sarah, some of the neighbors started calling, so that's why it's on here again, but I thought we had done this one in the past, maybe I'm wrong.
We did it, but it was for an occupied property.
Oh, maybe you're right.
That make
Right,
it-
it
is
was
that
an
why it-
occupied
Maybe
property.
you're
It
right,
wasn't,
maybe you're right, all right,
I didn't do it.
all right.
Can't we keep doing it under that?
I would
It's not.
like to think so, but I guess not.
No,
Well, we can't. Well,
No.
we can presume it's still occupied and cut it.
no.
We made them leave.
What? Oh, we made them leave?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got issues.
Yes, we have a
Not
motion,
me, because I don't know about it.
we have a motion and a second, anything else, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0. Yeah, we booted them. Mike, 20?
Whereas an order of remedy, a copy of which is attached here to, has been issued for property located at 6 Magnolia Lane, Town of Poughkeepsie, State of New York, pursuant to Chapter 159 of the Town of Poughkeepsie Town Code, whereas said order of remedy has not been complied with, and now therefore be resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby set the 15th day of October 2014 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Overrocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the time, date, and place of a public hearing, to consider a recommendation from the zoning administrator in that the town or its contractor remove as needed, continue to remove all garden waste, fallen tree limbs, cut and continue to cut the grass to a height not to exceed 6 inches, and maintain throughout the growing season so as not to become overgrown and unsightly, the cost of which work shall constitute a lien and charge on the above real property until paid, satisfied, or discharged shall be collected in the same manner as other town charges. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0. Mr. Hahn?
21.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Donald E. Wise to the Bureau of Fire Prevention for a 2-year term commencing immediately and ending December 31, 2015. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve, subject to the owner's compliance with all planning board conditions, the road names Pine Grove Path, Pillar Lane, Gallery Circle, and Mascot Drive for the Dutchess Community College campus, and be further resolved that upon adoption of this resolution and after compliance with all conditions, said resolution shall be sent to the 911 facilities for Dutchess County by the Town Clerk of the Town of Poughkeepsie. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, this has been passed on to us by Town Clerk Salvatore. Did you come up with those spiffy names?
I did.
There's no Conklin Court up there?
Pardon?
No,
I guess
Conklin
not. Those coming next.
I
At
only-
that area.
Mascot, that was the only one I picked.
We have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0. Be resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the referral of the application of Linda E. Dahlia of the project known as KARC Dahlia for zoning map amendment from R 20,000 district to RM district and senior housing overlay district designation for tax parcel number 6162-10-448647 and 450-614 and 436-615 and 429-640 and 407-662 to the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board for a recommendation pursuant to Town Code Section 210-154 and hereby consents to the designation of the Planning Board as lead agency for the secret review of said project. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1.
24 is a liquor license application. 25, be it resolved, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby grants special consent to the following items to wit. SC1, accept certificates of attendance for John Wiseman, Joe Lepore, Carl Whitehead, and Rich Davidson. SC2, accept the resignation of Jeanette Gonzalez, a school crossing guard. SC3, retain Hudson Valley Appraisal Tax Certiorari, Arlington Square LLC. And be it further resolved that upon the objection of any member of the town board, an item may be removed from the list and voted on separately. So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Special consent 1, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept the certificates of attendance for John Weissman, Joe Lepore, Carl Whitehead, Rich Davidson from the Dutchess County Planning Federation for courses entitled Historic Preservation, Case Law Update for Planning and Zoning, and Sign Regulation, copies of which are here attached. So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved that with the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the resignation of Jeanette Gonzalez from her position as school crossing guard effective immediately. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie finds that it is in the best interest of the town to retain Hudson Valley Appraisal Corporation for appraisal services for town of Poughkeepsie for the tax certiorari proceedings instituted by Arlington Square LLC against the town for the roll of 2013. Without using an RFP, such retention to be in accordance with the fee appraisal quote dated September 11, 2014, and that Kyle W. Burnett, Vanderwater LLP, and/or Kathleen Tabor, Town Assessor, are authorized to sign such papers as necessary to effectuate the retention. So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for public comment on town issues.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody here who'd like to address the board? Jim Challey. Mr. Armstrong, well, Jim's coming up. Section 3 of that resolution you had questioned said that the bonds are for 40 years. The last sentence where you heard the 5 years, it says, it is hereby further determined that a maximum maturity of the serial bonds herein authorized will exceed 5 years. I guess that's the language we have to have in there, but they're going to be 40 years. Okay? Hi, Jim.
Hi. Jim Challey, 35 Park Avenue. I'm here representing the committee that is organizing this year's Arlington Street Fair, and I simply wanted to personally invite all of you and anyone that's watching to come join us on Saturday from noon to 6. We've got a full schedule, 2 different stages of live entertainment, all kinds of food, the grand opening of 2 new businesses. Every single vendor slot is full. In fact, we've had to turn away
I think
a few.
100 vendors, is that right?
Over 120. And
Nice.
the weather forecast is good, so I think it's going to be a great event. I hope you will all stop by and say hello. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Sergeant Hulbert of the Police Department, Tom Myring of Recreation, and Mark Pfeiffer, the Highway Superintendent. They've been very helpful and cooperative in getting this set up. There's a lot of details to be taken care of, and we're much obliged to all 3 of those for their help. While I'm here, let me switch hats. Now I'm representing Peach Hill. Sunday, the 28th, so it'll be a week from this coming Sunday. We're having what we call our cider mill, or our cider ramble. And this will be in the afternoon from about 1 to 4. This is an event where people can come, go up on the hill, pick apples, and we'll have little hooks and baskets so you can reach up and grab them. As many of you know, the apple crop this year is not particularly good. It's not
What caused that, dude?
not nearly as good as it was
I
last year.
wonder why.
And we really
enough
don't
pesticides.
we really don't know whether it was a kind of an odd spring.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we did notice was because of the heavy snowfall late in the spring and the deer couldn't browse, they did a real pruning job on many of the apple trees.
Oh, really?
The tips of every branch that's within reach has been nibbled off.
It's amazing how high they get up in their hindquarters. I
And-
have an apple tree in my backyard, and they're like standing
Almost
straight up.
Climb up in it, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And how much they can eat. I mean, But we will have other apples available if people can't pick as many as they like. But we also have a gentleman who has an old-fashioned, actually it's an 18th century hand-operated cider press, so people can pick their apples, come down, put them in the basket, crank them out, and out comes some really, really excellent cider. Again, we're hoping the weather's nice. If it is, please come up and join us. And it's open to the public. So, pardon?
Nothing said.
The Peach Hill is located off Edgewood Road, and the best way to find that, the easiest way for people is to go to our website. And the easiest way to find the website is just Google Peach Hill Poughkeepsie, and you'll go right there. And we have a Google map with the GPS coordinates, and just plunk it in, and it'll tell you exactly how to get there. The short answer is it's the first right turn after Bedell Road as you're going out on Salt Point
Do we
Turnpike.
have signage out there that kind
Yes.
of directs you? I thought there's signs there now
Yeah,
that,
we-
because I went way back and a few times and wandered around, and then I finally found it after, I think, the third or fourth try. but
We now have a sign right on Edgewood.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as you go out Salt Point, if you just look for it'll.
And it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful town park, so if anybody hasn't been there, you really ought to do yourself a favor and take a visit.
Especially when the blossoms are out. That's
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
the spring is awesome. The fall is also, as the leaves change, pretty impressive, especially the views that you get over the valley.
Yes.
So it's still early, but October is a great time to go up there for a walk.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it that people probably should know, we've been very careful about mowing. So if you stay on the mowed paths, you don't have to worry about poison ivy, you don't have to worry about ticks, you don't have to worry about bugs, and the paths are smooth, so that there are paths that anyone can walk. In fact, the first loop meets all the conditions for handicapped accessibility. So there's something there for everyone. If you want to work out, there's what we call the Orange Trail. That one is steep. That'll get your blood pounding. Come and take advantage.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jim. Jeff?
As Mr. Pills is making his way up, he's one of the coaches that when I was a young kid developing my skills, he was directly responsible for me being the superstar that I am. Nice to see you, Coach.
We can blame him.
Just for the record, Jeff Pelz, I live at 36 Peckham Road. I'm here to represent the Arlington Professional Firefighters Local 2393. And to follow up on Jim Challies with the Arlington Street Fair, we do have a booth that's going to be there. Some of the things we're going to have there is going to just have some general safety information along with some fire prevention information. And a new thing that we want to try this year is what they call sidewalk CPR. So what we'll be doing is basically anyone who stops by, takes about 5 minutes, and just talk to them about doing hands-only cardio pulmonary resuscitation, which is something that a lot of people can do very easily. They don't have to worry about doing mouth-to-mouth, and it'll make it an outcome of someone who maybe is in cardiac arrest a little bit better. It's been very successful in many parts of the country and some of the areas around here. It's a valuable skill that we think is going to be able to teach a lot of people. So anyone who's in attendance, we feel should stop by. We're going to be at the intersection of Raymond and LaGrange, and we're going to have a big red fire truck with our name on it for anyone to be able to see and stop by. So we'd appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Anybody else? Rob?
Thank you, Rob Rubin. I maybe missed something. If you could enlighten me on item 07 here, 9/17/07, excuse me, 08. What was the date for the adoption of that? Was that October 1st? That's the tree
It was set the
preservation.
public hearing date, number 7,
October 1st, the
Not
public
7,
hearing?
8, Todd.
Yeah.
8.
October
October
1st.
1st.
10, okay, I
We're going to
missed
have a
that.
public hearing on it.
I also wanted to just mention two things. You were talking about tax certs, Councilman Krakauer. We had recently been told on the Wappinger School Board by our legal counsel that if we do not elect to participate right at the very beginning when we receive the notification, we're not privy. We have no right to any approval or any say in any settlement on that. So when if we do not come in right at the beginning, we can't come in later on and say, we don't like what's been settled.
Does your district participate in the tax certs? 'Cause my feeling is, if it's going to significantly impact your school district, you should be at the table. Whether you pay for an attorney to be there all the way through, or you participate in some part of the process to actually make a decision, it seems to me that it makes sense, because we get elected to these spots to vote yes or no generally, you get elected to that spot to vote yes or no. By not participating, you're not
I absolutely agree with you.
voting. So that's why I think it's a good thing when the school district is at the table, because we can better understand the impact on them, and you guys are usually ones that get the biggest impact from these things.
Absolutely, and we're reviewing that in Wappingers. I can't speak, for the other school districts. What I wanted to, the last thing that I wanted to mention is I wanted to give my thanks to a few people that I think this really shows a great level of cooperation between several different departments or governmental agencies. In the Wappinger School District, we recently had representation from the town of Poughkeepsie, as well as the Dutchess County Sheriff's Department coming to talk with us. We had Detective from the town of Poughkeepsie, Chris Hamill, from the Dutchess County Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Matt Hennica, and they gave a presentation to us in executive session, I might add. It was just a wonderful exhibit of cooperation of various different agencies involved, and I wanted to thank those agencies publicly. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
If I had a question, because something came up recently. I think it was an email or something that went out that people had indicated that the Arlington Fire District was no longer going to provide the school fire safety programs. Is that true? Correct? Not correct? Mr. Commissioner or Mr. Powell, somebody? And the reason I asked, when Mr. Rubin had mentioned the town police going in the schools, the fire district does it too. My kids, one's in Spackenhill, but over at, they go to the daycares, the preschools also, and it's nice. The kids meet the police officers or the firemen. They get a general idea of public safety. And my daughter Gabrielle, when she was having her graduation from preschool, she indicated what she wanted to be when she grew up was a fireman. So it shows that it definitely makes an impact on the kids, even at an early age. So it's nice to see that interaction. It's nice to have kids have a positive opinion and view of the people who keep them safe in the community. So I just think it's a good thing. So.
But the only thing I can say at this time, I had a meeting this morning with Mr. Steenberg, who's with this fire safety thing. And we were looking at ways to continue that and see if there were ways that we could hold back on the costs, which we've been trying to do with everything that's going on because of our budget. So there's been a lot of aspects that we've been looking at to see where we can curtail some of the costs of different things. And whether it remains that we're not going to do it or we're going to do it or whatever, there's discussion going on, and hopefully that can be resolved. That's all I think I want to say about it now. Seeing as how I'm up here right now, I might as well take my part to say these other subjects.
And my statement wasn't coming from anybody other than myself as a parent with it, and how impressed I was with the fact that that my daughter had such a positive view of that interaction and wants to be a firewoman when she grows up.
Everyone realizes the extreme benefits from it. And these things are being worked on. I mean, we've got a tremendous budget deficit that we've got to try to deal with and see where we're at and weigh everything and look at everything on an individual basis. It's not good, but we're working on it. My other subject was, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, or who's involved with it, or who has any jurisdiction on it, probably Mr. Carlos. They're putting in a gas line at the schools now. One on Brooklyn Farm, or Kerr Road, actually, up to the Oak Grove School. And they're also working on the one on Vassar Road. Now, the one on Vassar Road, they had flagmen out because they were bringing the pipes on the road, I guess, or whatever, but now they're off the road going up to the school. But the one off of Spring Road, Kerr Road, there's no flagmen for these guys digging the trench and setting these pipes in and hooking it up. They are on the shoulder of the road, I'll grant you that, and they have cones laid out along the edge. But when two cars are passing one another, you know how cars are when they're going to pass each other on a tight street, and there's no one with the flags. And I don't know who's controlling it, who has any say about it, whether the town's involved with it. Central Hudson has total control because they're the ones have contractors doing it, I assume. So I think maybe it's something that maybe should be looked into a little bit. So get a flagman there, and then you don't even know what days, they work a couple of days and you don't see them again. So I don't know where they go. I don't know if it's the same outfit doing Kerr Road as well as Vassar Road, I would assume, but I don't know.
I don't know, it's run, the school's
I don't know who's doing the jobs for Central Hudson.
I don't either.
And I was, Spring Road now I've been looking at, I understand that they're probably going to be taking that hill out, of course, because of the way they put the poles in,
Yep.
which is going to cause, unless they lower that road because it has a hump, it's still going to be a sight problem with oncoming vehicles because it's not going to be a straight line. There's still going to be a slight curve in that road, nowhere near as bad as it is now. But I don't know if the engineers have looked at the road height when that hill is taken out, whether that's going to be lowered in line with the two approaching roads before and after the mountain there, or the hill, whatever you want to call it. I think maybe it's something that should be,
Big rock.
yeah, maybe it should be looked into in
Yeah.
a little bit more depth than.
We'll check.
And maybe they're going to do it, but, you
Yeah,
know, you don't
maybe,
know.
I don't know, we'll check on that.
Couple of things I had marked here. This Fairview Commons thing that you were talking about got me thinking with how it's going to be laid out. You were talking about the different way, whether it was going to be not-for-profit or whatever, and how they could use the buildings and how they set it up, when I understand whether they would pay taxes or they wouldn't pay taxes or whatever. Does anybody know how Vassar College is set up with all the houses that they own on the side streets, the businesses they're buying up in Raymond? Do they pay taxes on all those
On the
places?
businesses, they pay taxes. If they have something in there that's a
They got a ton of
problem.
houses all over the place.
The homes, I think that the townhomes off Hooker, they wouldn't pay taxes on, but the businesses, if they're in business to make a profit, they.
What about College Avenue and
I think Vassar has made an intentional effort to keep those commercial properties on the tax rolls, even when they bought them.
Yeah,
I think
they have.
when they bought them, even the vacant properties, I think they've kept them on the tax rolls all along and had,
Yeah, I
is
agree.
it College Properties LLC or something like that, that is a for-profit company. So they've made an effort to make sure that those stay on the tax rolls and they pay taxes. A lot of schools and a lot of not-for-profits don't do that. So and the houses that they own,
They
Are
pay
they-
their taxes because they sell the houses to individuals.
that's what I thought. They
Yeah,
sell
and
the houses.
the
A lot
house,
of
they
them got stuff.
don't necessarily own the property, but the houses
Own the
themselves
land
are
and
owned.
Lease the house.
And they do pay property taxes for
Pretty
the
much all on the
houses.
tax rolls.
Yeah, and then when the person decides to sell the house, it's in the deed that they have to sell them back to Vassar. And then Vassar turns around and sells them to somebody else.
So they've been pretty proactive, I think, in keeping properties on the tax roll over in that area. And they actually stepped up. They bought, I think they're part of the, I mean, it's self-serving to a little extent because they bought it because they wanted the area around them to be
Well,
nicer.
I understand
But
that.
it benefits all of us. And again, I think all those commercial properties around their campus have always been on the tax rolls as long as I've been on the board.
As far as I know, there, yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, it brought it to my attention now with this other thing over Fairview, because Vassar, to my knowledge, gives us very, very little as a nonprofit area, or the campus that it is. And what they donate to the fire department is extremely small, and, you know, the fire department is quite a burden with the calls that come into from that that college, even with the drunks, they call it for people that are drunk. I don't know if the police go too, but a lot of underage drinking going on just from the calls that I hear, and, you know.
But Vassar has done a better job overall in containing the student housing on campus.
Vassar pretty much has most of.
They have adequate
housing for
housing
most of their
for the number of
students.
students that they have in there. The rest of it, I mean, it is, you know, that's, young people do that.
Well, I know what they are,
And I
but
think
it-
Vassar's security deals with the bulk of it, but when someone, I'd rather have them err on the side of caution, calling our fire department, getting those kids to the hospital than.
Well, I'm not against that. What I'm saying is that, you know, there's no real compensation coming from them for the service that is given to them because they don't pay taxes. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Seeing no one, I make a motion to resume the rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
Jay?
Be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby adjourned to executive session to consider the following matters to wit. Number 1, contract negotiations, collective negotiations. 2, confidential communications between the attorney and his client, the Town Board, based on attorney-client privilege. And be it further resolved, there will be no action, appropriating money, so moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Town Board,
Abstain.
Town Board goes to executive session at 9:30 PM.